I'm going to discuss a uniquely scalable, affordable, and rapid way to literally heal the planet. The enabling resource is halophytes. These are salt plants. Halo implies salt. There are thousands of these, and they mimic much of the characteristics and varieties of freshwater land plants, including many of the food plants. They are an alternative, thus far largely unexploited plant kingdom. They grow on deserts and wastelands using saline and seawater. Deserts and wastelands are some 44% of the land area, and saline and seawater is some 97% of the water, providing massive, thus far unexploited resources. Overall, this is usually sunny, cheap, and thus far unproductive land and cheap water with increasingly cheap photovoltaics to pump the water, and from halophyte grown biomass, plastics to make pipes to transport the water. Seawater contains some 80% of the nutrients to grow plants, so little fertilizer is needed. Seawater also contains trace minerals needed for human health, which are largely missing from the current arable land due to overuse. So why do this? Halophytes sequester some 18% of their CO2 uptake in deep desert roots, pulling CO2 directly out of the atmosphere. At the available massive scale of these resources, deserts and wastelands, 44% of the landmass, saline and seawater, growing food this way can replace much of the 70% of the fresh water now used for conventional freshwater agriculture, and that water can be returned for direct human use. We can grow all the food anybody wants to eat. We can provide biomass for chemical process industries replacing petroleum. We can provide biofuels to replace fossil fuels, all of them. We can literally green the planet rapidly and cheaply, thereby solving, at the requisite scale, rapidly, with no new technology required, land, water, food, energy, and climate, and as we've been discussing with other people, huge profit potentials. The major issue is this is a really big idea and a really big change, and humans have the amygdala, which is the part of our brain that keeps us conservative, and they really don't like large changes, particularly the huge extent global agriculture industry, which is not too happy about this. However, the exigencies of increasing droughts, salination of arable land from pumping increasingly saline aquifers, climate and ecosystem issues, food and water concerns are becoming sufficiently serious that affordable and rapid solution spaces are needed, especially those at the scale of the problems. And halophytes are essentially unique in having massive capacity and scale, combined with rapid speed of solution and excellent econometrics, very low costs, and huge potential profits. There is now a recent call where things have become so dire to pull CO2 directly from the atmosphere, and halophytes are a uniquely effective at-scale approach to doing that. So it has taken the humans, a couple of centuries with massive emissions and insults to the ecosystem over many years to produce the current dire situation we're in. It will take equally massive efforts and changes to provide remediation. Band-aids on running sores is just not going to do this. Suggest reading Under a Blue Sky by Peter Ward and consider that the ocean thermohaline circulators are slowing now. We are repeating the Permian extinction, termed the Great Dying. This was caused 94% species extinction by CO2 coming out of Siberian volcanoes, the so-called Siberian traps, at 1% of the current CO2 emission rate of the humans. So climate is far more than warm days and wet feet. It literally is existential. So two going off the platform here comments. One is the salt, when you do this, is flushed into and through the sandy soils. If it does accumulate, you can harvest it. It has an interesting collection of contents, a lot of minerals. And seawater irrigation produces fresh water rain downwind. So if you irrigate the Sahara, this puts rainfall back in the Middle East, then maybe we can regrow the cedars of Lebanon. Thank you for listening.
So as a reminder, the slides should be on the Discord for those following along online. Any questions in the room? Yeah, Anders.
Thank you for a great talk. So what are the edible halophyte species that we could actually use in a food scarce situation?
There is a group run by John Leake, Leake, in Australia, who has been commercializing halophytes. The Indian subcontinent has had a halophyte agriculture on its seacoast for hundreds of years, growing food and fodder. My understanding is the most expensive food that's available for sale in the market in Europe is a halophyte. So, there are, all kinds of things. There is more, need for a seed catalog for people to grow this stuff. You need about 30% more of the salt water than you would fresh water to flush the salt down through the soil. But, otherwise than that, this is just plain farming.